are off. I'm flying through the hallway like a disco moth. Pitching to the couch, then I loop through the fan. My tiny whoop's grooving like a funky jam. I dip through the doorway, spin by the cat, bounce off the toaster, yeah, I'm meant to do that. Neighbors knocking, saying, what's that sound? It's my brush motor soul train getting down. Flying through the curtain, dancing on breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic, bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop it all. I got LED strobes and a shag rug trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got soul. I'm the pilot of the party, on a roll. TV remote's a gate, the lamps a dive. I'm flying like it's 75. No GPS, no rules, no shame, just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. Below, we fly that flow, below, spread that gap, no time to nap, no time to nap. Hit that roll, funk and control, bounce that wall, bounce that all. We fly it all, we fly it all. Tiny whoop love, funky and free. We fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoop's got rhythm, my stick's got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split, it's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all. Can't stop at all. Can't stop at all.
Greetings, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti, and of course I forgot to zoom the camera in a little bit. Welcome to Not a Whoop Wednesday. We're going to be taking a look at some flight footage from a couple of different motors on two very similar builds. I'm going to unplug it. Hold on. Let me quit out of this first. So you were just watching flight footage from the Caillou Mini with... Eject that. There we go. The Caillou Mini with 1203 8000s on 7000s. T-motor 1203 7000 kV motors with HQ RT 2.5 by 2.1 by 3. These are pitchy propellers. 2.1 is not super pitchy, but the blades of these propellers are big, beefy mothers. And so look at like the meatiness of the blade here versus the lack of meatiness of this blade, right? See how much wider this blade is here? And then this is kind of skinnier and more aerodynamic, let's say. These HQ RT 2.5 by 2.1s, they perform, they fly a lot like a higher pitch than that. They feel like a 2.5 pitch or even like a 3 pitch, because that blade is so much wider. It's like a fucking oar. And on a 7,000 kV motor, I thought that these might pair really well with it, but what it looks like is just that these motors are too small for this props. I think that for these props, I think these would be better off on like a 1204 or like maybe a 1303, but like 1303 is not that much bigger than 1203. But yeah, I flew this with these motors on GemFan 2520s, which are very similar to the HQ 2.5 by 1.9s that are on this, which is the other rig we're going to be looking at. And they're a lot better. The less pitchy, more lightweight propellers perform a lot better on these motors, even though they're kind of a low KV. And so that's what we're going to kind of dive into tonight, is the intersection of the size of the motor, the KV of the motor, the size of the prop, the pitch of the prop. Because you have to, all of those things have to be working in tandem for like the system to perform as good as possible. If the motors are the perfect size but the propellers are a little bit too pitchy, you're not gonna get the response time that you want, and so the PID loop is gonna struggle. It's gonna have prop wash, stuff like that. If you've got too low of a pitch propeller with maybe not enough KV, or just if you have too low of a pitch of a propeller, you're leaving some performance on the table. If you've got too big of a motor, you're leaving performance on the table. You're dragging around too much motor weight. If you've got too low of a KV on the motor, same kind of deal, leaving performance on the table. And so we got to get we got to get those things dialed in, and that's exactly what I've been kind of doing a lot of this year. This year has been pretty heavy on prop and motor testing, specifically on this style of build. Last year and the year before were pretty heavy on whoops. Last year was pretty heavy on like outdoor 2S whoops. The year before, or the beginning of the year last year, and 2024 was super heavy on like indoor tiny whoop testing. And we like keep those tests sort of current as we roll along. So like I don't have to like go back to indoor 1S tiny whoop testing, because like we did the bulk of the testing, and then like as a new motor comes out, if it's an interesting motor, if it's not just a different color or needlessly extra KV, we'll test it to kind of keep that stuff up to date. But yeah, day out with the Caillou Mini and the 2.5-inch Bando Turtle yesterday. I flew 2 different spots on my way home from talk therapy. And I had a blast. 2 little like kind of office park-ish spots. One of them you may have seen before. One of them is the second spot there is a semi-famous Atlanta spot up here in Lawrenceville. Really cool little spot. There's usually cars and shit, and it's kind of sketchy there, but if you catch it at the right time, it's pretty slick. I'm going to plug these in to pull this. Yeah, we'll pull the flight footage off of it. I'm more interested in for testing. The onboard footage doesn't really do us any good. We want the goggle DVR, which gives us the amps being pulled, how bad the battery is sagging, all that stuff. And so Yeah, I'm actually not going to plug these in. This DVR doesn't really do anything for me other than like if I wanted to do an edit, like if I was going to do an edit between these two. One of the other things we're going to look at is regular old 04 light versus Flywoo wide angle, which is probably the same thing as the DJI 04 light wide angle now. And so, yeah, there's a couple of things that are sort of being tested here. Also, this guy is on motor plugs. This is direct soldered. So all of you motor plug haters should expect to see way more runtime out of this, right? Everybody that says that motor plugs are the worst thing on earth and you're losing lots of performance and runtime. So we should see the Caillou Mini have a lot more runtime, but we won't because it doesn't make much of a difference, especially on 2S. It makes less of a difference on 2S than it does on 1S, actually. And so, yeah, a bunch of stuff getting tested here. The Caillou Mini is the rig that's on the T-Motor 1203 7000s. The Bando Turtle is on GEP-RC 1202.5 10,000s? 11,000s? 10,000s. So pretty drastic difference in KV, which should show up in the RPM, but the smaller motors, the 1202.5, those are the higher KV motors. The bigger 1203s are the lower KVs. And that's kind of what you want. Like, if you're going to go with a smaller motor, it makes sense to go with a little bit of a higher KV to make up for the fact that the motor's a little bit smaller. And then if it's too high of a KV, you can just motor limit it down. The more grunty, the bigger motors here, the T-Motor 1203s, at 7,000 kV, I thought that they would be able to push this bigger, heavier, more pitchy propeller, but the motors, the motor size is just not enough. Like 1203 is just not enough stator for these motors. Something that I really need you all to understand is that lower KV motors do not make more torque. This is not an Atkinson cycle gasoline engine. These are electric motors. It's a whole different kind of thing. So many people completely incorrectly assume that because, you know, V8s with 6,000 RPM red lines versus a Honda K24 4-cylinder with a 9,000 RPM red line, that the lower RPM means there's going to be more torque. It absolutely does not. What changes the KV of these motors is how many winds of the winding material are around each stator pole and the thickness of that winding material. And in reality, all it really does is make the stator more, it adds or reduces to the resistance of the stator. If you have less winds around each stator pole, that motor has less resistance. And with less resistance, it'll keep spinning and spinning and spinning, and it'll spin up to a higher RPM. And so, actually, the higher KV motors have more torque, but like, just throw torque out the window. Gasoline engines have a crossing point of torque and horsepower. We don't measure these motors like that. We measure these motors in grams of thrust. And so throw torque out the window. It's when you say torque to someone that actually knows gasoline engines, their definition of torque is completely different than people that don't understand it, and that causes a lot of confusion. And so throw this torque shit out the window and just use the word power. How much power? How much power does a motor have? The bigger the stator, the more power. The higher the KV, the more power, right? If the motor is a higher KV, it will pull more from the battery and it will make more power. And so throw this torque shit out the window, because this like insane, super common, incorrect assumption that a lower KV motor is going to have more grunt and more torque. It's just wrong. It's just completely wrong. Motors perform exactly the same. Well, not exactly the same. A lower kV motor will have slightly better efficiency, but one of the big reasons that it has more efficiency is that it makes less power and it turns less RPM. So every time you go full throttle, of course, the less powerful motor is going to be more efficient and pull less out of the battery, right? So yeah, there's a quick hit of like motor knowledge for you. Hey, anybody that knows 3D software, is anybody interested in taking this design file and just removing like a 0.5 millimeter of material from the left and right so that we don't get this goddamn purple or whatever color we've printed this mount out of in the sides of the view? That would be super awesome, and the community would love you because there are plenty of people with Caillou Minis and Flywoo Wides that would appreciate that. Also in the corners. The corners need some material moved, which I did with a pair of dikes. And so, yeah, if you're interested in that, hit me up. Message me somewhere. All my contact info is on CiottiFPV.com, as well as all the ways that you guys can support me. And I'll explain the situation. Basically, instead of the walls of the edges of this just being like that right now, they should be like this. They should be angled. Whenever you design something that's going to be on the front or outside of a lens, you want to make it like this because this is the field of view of the camera, right? And so you want to make everything in that kind of outward shape. So yeah. In the chat, Render was first, Mr. Clean was next, Nathan Wells, Fizz, Uke, Zout, Varden, Matthew Wegner, Uriel, Philip, Moton, CXB, Level Up, B. Kirk, Jimmy the Cow, and WKFPV. Type at CiottiFPV to talk directly to me. Go to CiottiFPV.com to support me. This is totally crowdfunded. I talk all kinds of shit about products because I don't care if they don't send me anything else. And typically they don't send me anything anyway. So you guys support me. I buy the stuff that you're interested in, that you want to see tested. And if it sucks, I tell you it sucks. If it's great, I tell you it's great. That's it. You know, if that's what you want, you got to support people. If you just want somebody to say, this is the greatest thing ever, you should definitely buy it. Buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Use my link. Then there's plenty of folks who, you know, rely on these manufacturers to send them every single new product, every single bind and fly. There are certainly folks that don't. Nick Burns is one of my absolute favorites. He pulls no punches and is a great pilot and just a great person. I've talked to him a bunch of times over the years. But yeah, careful with that. If everything is the best thing ever, the person reviewing it either doesn't know what the hell they're talking about or doesn't care to give you the straight dope. And then you're going to go out and buy garbage. So hopefully I've helped many, many, many of you. Not hopefully, I know that I've helped loads of you not buy garbage. Give her garbage. Chicks dig garbage. If anybody knows what movie that's from, I'll be very impressed. I've been using the Fat Tank. I've been using the Fat Tank electric screwdriver some more, and it has stripped out a motor. I was using this to tighten prop screws into the top of one of these T-Motor 1203s, and it has I forgot to turn it off. On the base here, to turn it on, you twist this, and you should see this light. You have to hit the button to bring the light up, I guess. Okay, yeah. So this light represents how much torque it's going to put before it... torque. Yeah, how much torque it's going to put before it clutches itself. There's not a clutch in here, but it's all digital. I've been running this thing as low as it'll go, and one of the things I've noticed is it's very inconsistent with how much torque it actually puts on screws before it stops. And so I had a couple builds where I screwed everything in with this, and then I went back with a MIP driver that I've been using for years, and I'm like relatively calibrated, just like the amount of twisting force I put on it. And all of the screws were at different torque values. And so I like this for like the general getting screws, removing screws. This is awesome because that doesn't really matter. But tightening screws up, I think that this only really makes sense on the frame screws that are not going into areas that could strip. So like no prop screws with this. I also don't like using any electronic screwdrivers on prop screws because if the clutch doesn't kick in and it twists really hard, that propeller is going to come around in your other hand, and if it's the sharp side of the propeller, it can cut the shit out of you. So I don't recommend that regardless, but still, that was interesting. Yeah, for removing screws, I think this is great, but for putting screws back in, other than just like using it to get them to the point where they're about to be tight and then you switch to a hand tool, I'm not really sure. And so that's kind of tough. I have a feeling I'm going to end up returning this. I don't need this many bits. This is absurd. This case is kind of cool. It's awful heavy, but it's kind of slick to have this where like that clicks down and then this clicks in there, and like if you shake it hard it will pop out like that, but it's only held in my magnets. But it is kind of cool. It was nice to take this over to the couch, and I laid a bunch of these frames out on the coffee table, and I just had this. I didn't have to like grab all the MIP drivers and then like, oh, I forgot to grab a Phillips head. I gotta walk back over here and grab the, like, this has everything. It has all the tools in it, all the heads in it rather. And then like traveling with this might be cool, but this is super fucking heavy. I would absolutely not want this to be in my flight bag on my back, which is already heavy. And so like traveling somewhere in my car, yeah, this would be great, but like doesn't happen that often. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I got a hell of a deal on it. And so for what I paid, I should probably just keep it. I only paid like $40-something for this. And so like that's such a good deal that like, you know, if I use it 40 times, it was probably worth $1 per use, and I'll definitely use it 40 times, right? So I should probably hang on to it, but I don't know. $40, that's a set of motors, right? Like that, I can do stuff with $40, and then just keep using the hand tools where I know it. I trust them. I know that I'm torquing stuff down with the exact same amount because that's just, I just do that with my hand. So yeah, I'm not sure. All that being said, I did some research, and this one got reviewed really well by a few different people. So this is a really good one. Fat Nick Nex E2 Ultra. This is a good one. But still don't know if I'm going to keep it. We'll see. I'm going to keep using it. I'm definitely not using it on prop screws anymore though, because stripping out motors really sucks. That is like super shitty. Luckily the bell of these T-Motor 1203s have the 4 screw holes. So I stripped one out. That's okay. I just always put the prop on 90 degrees from that, and all's well. Jimmy the Cow says moo. Jimmy Flies FPV says hello. Jimmy the Cow says, I like your cleaned up solder mat and sticker job you did on it. Thanks. I just added a couple more stickers to it. I kind of want to replace this mat. These mats are not expensive. I got super glue on it, and I can't get, this just will not come off. The super glue plus silicone is not a good combination. But yeah, it's not that bad. So I'll probably hang on to it. It's not, at some point I'll do something really dumb to this, and that'll be my chance to replace it. But yeah, I wanna keep kind of doing this because I don't really use this side of the mat, and I think it looks really cool in the down-facing camera. I also I made this. I lifted this camera up. This is now quite a bit wider. So we'll see how that is. You'll have a little bit less detail, but it's always kind of out of focus anyway because Logitech sucks a bag of donkeys. Blueback says, by the way, it is excruciatingly hot here in Georgia. I want to die. It's awful. This is bullshit. Get me the fuck out of here. Blueback FPV says, I just put 1203 11,500 motors on 2S Caillou Mini 04 wide. It's perfect. Very cool. The next set of 1203s that I'm going to try are higher KV. They are the RC Powers. I've got... So... As an example of some of the motor testing that has happened so far, we've got this little container here. This container has Happy Model 1103? No, Happy Model 1202 and a half, 11,500s. They weren't badly balanced, but they weren't as well balanced as some of these other motors. And the Happy motors are a little bit notorious for not being quite as durable as some of the others. We've got a set of, I still actually haven't tested these, but a set of Gep RC 1202 and a half 15,000s. These are going on to one of these 2-inch builds to see if we can get enough power out of these Gemfan 2015 bi-blades, which should be really fun. I'm actually really looking forward to testing these motors out. We've got a set of RC and Power 1003 14,000s. Pretty sure it's 14,000. 10,000. Sorry, 10,000. A pair of the Aquila 20 1103 11,000s. And then for the 2.5-inch stuff, Happy Models, I think these are the 1103s, right? Yeah, Happy Model 1103 11,000s, which I actually haven't tested yet, but I think these are going to be on a 2-inch setup. Because no, they're not, because they might be. I got to find a 2-inch setup with 4-bolt motor mounting, which is what these have. And then we've got the RC and Power 1204 8000s and the RC and Power 1203 11,500s. The 1203 11,500s are the next up. These are the next motors that are going to be tested. They're going to get direct soldered up to the Caillou Mini, and we'll get to see what a difference the KV makes. Going from 7,000 to 11.5 is going to make a big difference. Tonight we're gonna. Oh, also there's a set of Flywoo 1003 14,800s here as well that are on the 2-inch Whoop. So we've been doing a lot of testing, and each time I show you these head-to-heads, I try my best to kind of talk about the previous motors that we've tested. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to keep track of all this, but doing my best. And so yeah. Tonight we're taking a look at lower KV, bigger motors versus higher KV, smaller motors. And we should see a difference. I actually have not looked at the DVR yet, so I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see a difference. I have a feeling we will. But you'll get to see my reaction. Also 1002 14,000s. There's a whole bunch of 1002s and 1102s that we've tested, but those are all for like 2-inch props or even 1.6. So yeah, I'm going to leave these RC and Power 1203s out to remind myself that they go next. But I am going to put a bunch more batteries through these T-Motor 1203s. Oh my God, by the way, this sucked. It's the only way to describe it. Putting ARM LEDs on this small of a build is a motherfucker. One of the biggest problems is right in there. You have to make tiny, tiny little, like 5 centimeter long wires to go from the AIO to the arm LED, because you want the arm LED or the race wire to be where the propeller would hit, right? One of the points of these is that if you get a prop strike on your motor wires, it chews the shit out of the motor wires. And if it chews 2 of the motor wires next to each other, bad things can happen. And so if you put a race wire or a race wire LED in the spot where the propeller would hit, right? If I bend that down, it would hit right there. It might break. It might break the zip tie, or it might break the LED, but that doesn't matter. The motor will keep going, and you won't shred the shit out of the motor wires. And yeah, this sucked. This sucked. This took hours and hours and hours to get done cleanly. And like, you know, I'm crazy and like to do stuff super clean because I don't like losing my shit, and it does make a difference. I could probably work twice as fast and still get something that's 98% as reliable. But I'm a crazy person, and when you're a crazy person, you got to do crazy things at home, at your workbench, so that you don't go outside and do crazy things from the top of a clock tower. You know what I mean? So yeah, keep your crazy activities at home. Yeah, I don't recommend that anybody do this. These little Flywoo arm LEDs are very cool, but the pads are very close together. Dealing with wire runs that are this short is a motherfucker. It's totally doable, and if you enjoy building and if you enjoy soldering, you'll absolutely love it. And it will make you better at soldering. So actually, maybe do it. I don't really get better at soldering at this point. I've been doing it for so long. I get a little bit better for sure every time I do it, because that's just the way things are. But I'm not looking to get better at soldering, and so this was an awful lot of time for not a lot of gain. But hey, I did it once. They'll stay hooked up to this AIO, and so I've got like one rig with it. I don't think I'm gonna do it again. I think this is gonna be the only rig that I do this on. It also doesn't. You wouldn't do this if you were gonna use motor plugs, and I do actually think that motor plugs are the way to go if there are motors available with motor plugs. These 2.5-inch builds, there really are but there aren't many motors that have motor plugs on them, and you're not going to add them. For the 2-inch setups, yeah, for sure, go with motor plugs, because there's a bunch of motors that have them, and so you got plenty of options. But on these 2.5-inch builds, you're getting up to like 1203 motors, 1204, 1303, and none of those have the motor. Not none, but like practically none of those have the motor wires. In 2-inch land, GetBarC makes really nice 1202.5s in 2 different KVs, 15,000, I think the other one's 10,000, with the motor plugs, which is really, really cool. RCN Power makes these 1003s with the motor plugs and 3-bolt motor mounting. The Aquila 20 1103s, which are kind of like an ugly motor. They're just like a black motor, but they work really well. These have motor plugs on them. And I'm sure there's a couple more. So yeah, these open prop 2-inch builds, or definitely on Whoop builds, you got plenty of options for motor plugs. And then the AIOs, a lot of these AIOs come with the pads set up so that you can just drop the JST plug right in there. I still do need to find a source. I think I might have a tab open somewhere here for the 90-degree motor plugs. Yeah, I do. It's from AliExpress. AliExpress sells the 90-degree JST 1.25 motor plugs. I need to order. I'm going to order like 100 of them. and I'll put them on the Etsy store, and then you guys can buy them, because otherwise you're gonna have to get them directly from AliExpress, because we a bunch of us looked and we can't find them anywhere inside the U.S. So yeah, I'll get a bunch, and you guys can just snag them off the Etsy store. Speaking of the Etsy store, I added a couple little things today. I added these really handy little screw packs. Sometimes when you buy these motors, they'll come with a little not vacuum sealed, but like just a tiny little container of like M2x3, M2x4, M2x7, M2x4, M2x5, M2x7. And it's just this tiny little pack, like a little emergency pack. And so you throw one of these little packs into your flight bag, you throw one into your travel bag that sometimes you put your quads in, and you just have a couple extra screws that are not like in some container that's going to pop open and dump them all over, right? It's in a nice little plastic pouch, and it's just your emergency M2 screw supply. So yeah, there's a couple of those little screw packs on the Etsy store that I added today. And I also added GemFan 2540s. There are tons of red and black GemFan 2540s on the Etsy store now. So yeah, a couple new things. And I'm almost caught up on orders. For anybody that's been waiting for their order, I apologize. I got really behind on that. I was way too focused on getting these Tulsa Tough edits done. And I was just like, the blinders have been on for a couple of weeks, but yeah, I'm back. I'm back amongst the living. So let's dive into some DVR, my friends. I've got the SD card from the Goggles Integra here, and in the media folder we've got, here we go. Okay, cool. So let me get this a little bit before I forget. Let me get this kind of a little bit, well, you know what we can look at first and foremost is the difference in, and we've done this before, but the difference in field of view between the Flywoo Light and the regular old 04. On the bench, this is what that looks like. Flywoo wide angle, and then 04 Light. I cannot believe how drastic of a difference this is. This is also before I cut away some of the TPU in the corners of the Caillou mini mount. But yeah, this is crazy how different the field of view is between these two. It blows me away that I don't notice it more when I'm flying. I do notice it when I'm flying, and this yesterday and today I've flown a bunch of batteries back to back between these two, and like, yes, I can notice it, but I notice it and then I just keep flying. It's not like I can't fly one or I can't fly the other, or one of them looks bad. It's just different. It's just different fields of view. The Flywoo wide angle here has a lot of that sort of like fisheye bowing that kind of happens where the lines aren't straight. And then the 04 Light, like all of these lines are I mean, like, look at the lines on this on the bottom of this workbench, right? Of this machinist toolbox, rather. Like, the bottom of the frame is always where everything really starts to round out, but the 04 Light is just super, super, super linear. All of these lines are perfectly straight. Nothing is like weirdly bent. And that's one of the things I really love about the 04 Light, to be honest. But we are certainly more used to this field of view, this wide, wide, wide field of view. This is probably is not the word. This is better for freestyle. This is potentially better for more cinematic flying. This totally works for freestyle. This, I guess it kind of totally works for cinematic stuff, but that fisheye thing, like, some people don't want that. And so, yeah, the pluses and minuses to each. Out in the world, with trees and shit, here's what that's going to look like. Flywoo wide angle, 04 Light. Flywoo wide angle, 04 Light. It's a lot less drastic when you're looking at trees and when you're looking at a building and you're looking at a parking lot and shit like that. But it is still there. I had the switch flipped and I've got no OSD. That sucks. Oh, look at me. I've realized it. Okay. So first thing that I always like to look at when comparing props or motors or battery voltage or battery MAH is you take off, you go full throttle, you see how bad the battery sags. And so let's take a quick look at that. So up first is T-Motor 1203 7000 kV on HQ RT 2.5 by 2.1 by 3 propellers. A little bit heavier propellers, big fat blade, paired up with a lower KV 1203. And so let's have a look. This is the Tattoo 2S450 XT30 battery. I didn't realize it until after that first power loop. That kind of sucks. So in fairness, the battery has now sagged down a little bit. Turn my camera off. Okay. And so, yeah, that kind of stinks, but whatever. It's fine. Here comes another power loop. We're going to go full throttle. The battery is at 4.04 on a little bit of a cruise forward here. We're going full throttle. Okay, there's 100% throttle. I've been dialing in the amperage meter. Look how nice that looks. Look at how good those clouds look, yo. Holy shit. This is an 8 gram. Oh no, I guess this is the Flywoo wide angle. So this is like a 10 or 11 gram Cameron VTX. That's bananas. We can't look at the amp numbers here yet because I haven't dialed. Although, hold on. Let's go to the end of the battery and see. Okay, so I've gone too far now on the battery amp scaling. You know, let me fix this right now because otherwise I will not remember. This is a 450 milliamp battery. This says that I've taken 505 milliamps out of it. If you have that situation, here's how you fix it. If it's telling you that you've taken more milliamps out of the battery than the battery is, here's what you do. You come into power and battery, and you go down here to this scale, and you go up on the scale. And so I'm going to go up to the weed number. That's probably a little bit too low. Let's go up to 440. And that is going to bring that milliamp number down. The reason why that matters is that the amp numbers over here, the constant amp reading, is based on that amp scaling. And so you just keep moving that number up and down until when you come down at the end of a battery, and like the end of a battery, in my opinion, is 3.5 volts per cell at a hover. There are people that run batteries down even lower. If you set all of your quads up the same way to where this milliamp number matches how many milliamps are in the battery at a given voltage at a hover, then all of your amp, even if your amp number over here might be a little high or might be a little low compared to somebody else, it doesn't matter because you're not going to ever compare this to somebody else. You compare this to your own shit. And so you dial all your own rigs in so that this milliamp used OSD element at the end of the battery at the same number of volts that you've decided is where you like to stop flying. They're all going to be even, and you're going to be able to compare stuff. But this is not dialed in yet. The other, I think the Bando Turtle is dialed in. We'll take a look in a second. But this one is not. Some ESCs, AIOs, flight controllers come with that scale dialed in perfectly. Some don't. If you're running a flight controller and an ESC that are not specifically sold in a stack, it's not going to be right. The scale is absolutely not going to be right. There's no standardization with it. And so, yeah, there you go. But that's why we look at battery sag. The way to be able to tell how hard a motor prop combo is hitting your battery is to go full throttle and see what happens to the battery voltage. When I had this rig on 1204s, RCN Power 1204 8000 kV motors, it was giving me low battery warnings and land now warnings on the first full throttle hit. This, when I had no OSD here, I didn't actually have no OSD. My shit is set up so that when I flip a switch all the way down, it gives me clean OSD, but it still gives me warnings. And so on this first full throttle hit, if it had sagged the battery down to 3.3 volts per cell, I would have gotten a warning here. And that's what was happening on the 1204s. And I immediately noticed that that didn't happen on these 1203s. So that's a big step in the right direction. And so just to prove that, look, no warning there. And that was a pretty big full throttle hit. Now we're going to do it again, though, because I realized in the middle of that the effing OSD wasn't on. And so now we're going to get to see the battery is at about 4.06. Let's see how bad it sags. 3.7, 3.64. So 3.64 was as low as it sagged, which is, I mean, like on a 6S 5-inch rig, you're not going to see that on a freshly charged battery. On a micro, you are. Micros just sag batteries harder. It's just a part of the game when it comes to tiny whoops and micros. We're pushing these batteries and these motors really, really hard to try to get extra performance out of them, to offset the fact that the smaller propellers are drastically less efficient than the bigger propellers. There's me fucking up that power loop. But we got this nice big full throttle hit in here, and we were full throttle for about a quarter of a second, and so that's usually about enough time. I'd like to try to have at least a half a second, but sometimes I kind of screw that up. And so speaking of screwing things up, this is me luckily not getting hung up in this tree, and we go for one more. On the way into this one, the battery is at 4.04 volts, so let's see how bad it sags on this one. 3.59, 3.59. 359 was as low as it went. There it is. Full throttle. 32.16-ish amps. Again, that number ain't right quite yet, but we're getting closer. And I think that number is now a little bit high. I think because I'd moved to the other side of that, whatever. We get it dialed in properly, and then you can look at that amp number. So, great success. The RC & Power 1204s were absolutely hammering on these batteries. Too hard, too much motor, too big of a motor, not a big enough battery. The Caillou Mini battery bay limits how big of a battery you can put on here. And I'm already running the biggest batteries, which are 2S 450s. Down the road here, this is going to go to 3S. And we're going to try 3S 380 mAh batteries to help with that problem. I would love to get this thing back onto 1204s, but it needs more battery than it currently has. And on 2S, what that would mean is I would need to go to a 2S 650 or a 2S 850, and those batteries are too long, and they hang way off the back of this thing, and I already have issues with the batteries trying to come off the back of this, and so that's not possible. Sometimes the frame, the build itself, limits you on the size of the battery. And so you put the biggest battery on there and you get this shit dialed in. And when I did that with the 1204s, they were just sagging it too hard. And so 1204s are not the right motor for this exact setup. Maybe they will be once I switch this AIO to one that can take 3S. But at the moment, this is a 1 or 2S AIO. And so we're locked in at the moment. We're going to push 2S as far as we can on this, and then we'll go to 3S. And so these T-Motor 1203s immediately are a much better option for this build than those 1204s. This build as it's set up right now, I should say. Partially that's because 1203 is a lot smaller than 1204. Watch this. There's this really cool Vitroid FPV. Here comes the link into the chat. For those of you that are watching this not live, that don't have the chat up, here's the website, the URL rather. This is really, really slick. You just come in here and you type in 1204, and then you click the plus, and then you type in 1203, and then you click the plus, and it tells you the volume of each motor. The volume is how much power the motor is going to make. The surface is how cool the motor is going to run. The more surface area on the motor, the more the thrust is going to hit it and cool it down. And so 1204 has a shitload of volume compared to 1203. 450 versus 340. That's a massive difference. The 1204 also does have a little bit more surface area, but it's not that much more surface area. So the 1204 is going to run a little bit hotter, A, because it makes more power, but also B, because the ratio of like power it makes to the surface area is just a little bit different. The shorter a motor is, the better the ratio of the size of the motor to the surface area. And so a flatter, wider motor is always going to run cooler and be more consistent. And so, but the big thing I wanted to show you here is that 1204 has a ton of stator volume. 1203 is a significant amount less. And so we've got a much smaller stator. So that much smaller stator is going to just not pull as hard on the battery. We've also got a slightly lower kV. We went from 8,000 to 7,000 kV. We went from RC and power to T-motor, and as we've discussed a million times, each different motor company tests kV a little bit different, and so God only knows if these 7,000 kV T-motors are actually lower kV than these 8,000 kV RC and powers. I should have tested the RC and powers before I pulled them apart, before I pulled them off of this rig, but I didn't. So it is what it is. But regardless, you put them on the rig, you fly them. How they fly is all that really matters. And so let's dive back in here and take a look at how the battery does through the course of flying in like a pretty standard, like sort of office parking lot spot. Lots of full throttle. This is a spot that traditionally I would actually fly with a 5-inch rig on a Saturday or a Sunday when there are no cars whatsoever here. On a weekday, yeah, maybe you can wait until 6 or 7 o'clock. Maybe all these cars will be gone, but there's almost always like a security guard possibly walking around. There's almost always a bunch of people working late who don't necessarily want to hear a 5-inch rig just screaming outside their window. A spot like this becomes kind of reckless, kind of hard to fly with a 5-inch rig, anything other than a weekend. And again, even on a weekend, there's going to be a security guard, which very well might kick you out. I did this in the middle of the workday, and nobody was the wiser because these little things don't make any noise, all things considered. And so yet another like amazing thing about these open prop 2 and 2.5 inch builds. You can just go and do this. And like, yeah, sure. If I bang into one of these guys' cars, it's going to leave a mark. I'm going to have to go talk to them and pay for the damages. But don't fly absolutely unbelievably reckless around the cars, right? When you want to do reckless shit, make sure you're in a part of the parking lot where there's not cars. When you're just kind of chilling and cruising like I just was, yeah, sure, fly over the car, whatever. And so we are at 1:40. The battery's hanging in good. We're at like 3.7 at like sort of a hover. We're not getting big, nasty, low battery or land now warnings when we go full throttle for some of this stuff. And so this is damn good. We're now 2 minutes in. And the battery is absolutely hanging in there. At 0 throttle, the battery just bounced back to 3.75. There's our first warning when we're at full throttle. But as is the case with almost all micros, when you get that first warning, that's like your 1 minute warning. That's like, 1 minute left. Don't expect a massive hit of power. Don't do that big, crazy, scary dive now. You had 2 minutes to do that. Now is when you chill just a little bit. You can still use full throttle, but don't sit on full throttle for like a half a second or a full second anymore, because you're gonna hurt the battery. And so yeah, now we're at 2 minutes and 45. This is pretty abusive flying. This is a big spot. That's why we tend to fly 5-inch rigs here. But it's really cool to see how well these smaller rigs can do at a spot like this. realistically, I think the right sized build for a spot like this after hours or on the weekends is a 3-inch, a heavier 3-inch rig, 250, 260, 270 grams, or even like a 3.5-inch, 300 gram, 310 gram. Because it is a big spot, and it would be really cool to go all the way down to the end of the building and do a massive power loop and hurl myself all the way back to the other side of the building. That's one of the really fun things to do at these office park spots. It gives you that like feeling of shrinking the world, right? These 2-inch, 2.5-inch rigs, they don't do that. They don't. It's kind of cool, right? We've got these little awesome tiny whoops that make the world seem a lot bigger, right? This tiny little basement, this like 300 square foot basement, 400 square foot basement, feels like a fucking auditorium with a really lightweight, dialed in tiny whoop. And then we've got 3-inch, 3.5-inch, 5-inch rigs that shrink the world, which is fun as well. These just like move you around in the world. They don't shrink the world. They don't blow the world up. They just feel kind of right. And so you can just kind of move around in a way that, yeah, you don't feel like a superhero. You don't feel like a little mosquito. You just feel like someone that can fly, which is pretty fucking cool. And so that's kind of what I think we're seeing here. So that was the Caillou Mini. Here comes the Bando Turtle 2.5, which is on GEP RC 1202.5. What did I say? 10,000? God damn it. Were they 10 or 11? 10,000. Look at me. 1202.5, 10,000 kV motors on less pitchy propellers. We've gone from HQ 2.5 by 2.1 by 3 with big fat blades, and now we are on Gemfan 2520, which are just like the props that we're about to see on the Caillou Mini when I'm flying out in front of the house. But so smaller motor, higher kV, less pitchy prop is what we're now looking at. So fully charged battery. I've remembered to leave the OSD on, so this first one is going to be artificially higher. No, it's perfect. I did a little move. Okay, so that evened it out. Here we go. Here comes a full throttle power loop, and so let's see how the... Whoa! Okay. That sagged the motor down a lot. So, that's the KV. 10,000 kV versus 7,000 kV is very, very different. That is a massive change. And so 10,000 kV on 2.5-inch, even though they're not pitchy, 2.5-inch tri-blades is hammering this battery pretty good. This rig felt like it had quite a bit more power. Because it does, even though it's a smaller motor, right? It's a smaller motor. It has less torque. No, shut up. No torque. Stop saying torque. Power. This motor has more power because it's wound. The stator is wound in a way that it has less resistance, and less resistance will it will let more juice come out of that battery. And so even though this is only a 1202.5 and we were just flying a 1203, this motor makes more power because of the KV. And we can, that's very obvious. This just sagged the motor all the way down to 3.35 on this big, that's probably as low as it went. Yeah, it looks like it's as low as it went. And look at the amps, 49.17 amps. Again, we can't totally trust that. Let's look at the end of the battery though real quick. So after 3 minutes and a bit of flying, look at that. Oh, that's pretty cool. We actually can trust these amp numbers because both of these are wrong in the same amount. This is a 450 mAh battery that it's telling me that I pulled 495 out of. So I'm actually going to do the same thing. I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to lower, I'm going to raise that scale up. So again, if you missed it a minute ago, if you fly a battery and at the end of the battery, you're at the normal voltage that you like to land at, what I think that should be is 3.5 volts at a hover. That for me is the best place to land a battery. It makes sure that you don't over discharge the battery and hurt it, but you're taking the majority of the good power out of the battery. If you keep flying at 3.5 volts per cell, it's going to feel like shit. Don't do that. Buy an extra battery and then stop doing that. And you'll fly batteries, and the batteries will last longer, and so you'll actually save yourself money in the end. When you over discharge these batteries, you kill them, and then they go into a landfill, and that's that. Or they go into the recycling bucket at Best Buy, the proper LiPo recycling bucket. So that's kind of cool. Let me give me 1 second. Let me just show you how to do that. Again, connect to Betaflight, power and battery tab, and then it's right here. It's this scale. And so if it's saying that you took more MAH out than the battery actually has, you're gonna raise this scale. So I'm gonna go to 180. The lower this number is, the more impactful the change that you're making is. So on the other rig, it was at 400, and I went up to 430 or 440. On this one, it was at 170. I'm only going to go up to 180. And that might make the same change on both of these. And then I'm just going to fly a couple more batteries and just pay attention to, at the end of the battery, what it says. And that's how you can dial this in very, very easily. And you can dial in each one of your builds to be correct. And then, yeah, you're good to go. Okay, so let's see how the 1202.5s did. I definitely noticed that they felt like they had more power. I didn't notice how hard they were sagging the battery when I flew it. I thought maybe it was because they're a lighter motor, and the Bando Turtle is a little bit lighter because of the lighter motors. But that was a big, ugly power loop, but it looked like I was sitting on full throttle. Was that the one that I... Okay, yeah, no, that was about the same full throttle blip. You see how much... Look how high and far back the damn thing went, though, in comparison. The power loops I was doing on the Caillou Mini were pretty tight around those trees. What the hell was that? Yes. Oh, hold on. Hi. Oh. How can I help you, sir? What are you doing? What is this? Why is your arm all pink? Hold on. What's happening here? Did you get... Is that blood? What's going on? No. Look, you gonna come up here and paw at my arm. You're gonna get picked up, brother. Hold on. Let's check this out. Just relax. Hold on. This turned into the vet hour. What is this? Why is this pink? Stop looking at me. Stop it. All right, you're fine. I'm a little dog. I'm a little dog. Hey, what? Hey. All right. Oh boy, I've made a tactical error here. There's an expectation now. just wait an hour and a half, and then I'll throw that across the room like 5 or 10 times, and then hopefully you'll shut up. Okay, back to it. Sorry. Okay, so we did that one big power loop. Here's me doing the same, trying to do the same sort of power loop to see how it feels. Oh god, Teddy, please no. Look how much higher. Holy shit. Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to do that. There we go. There's a tight one, but look how much farther back I'm going. Very obviously a more powerful setup here. Stop it, Teddy. Stop it. Go away. Go away, monkey. Bad monkey. Let's let this play out here. Less pitchy prop as well. Also remember that. More power with less pitch. Only thing that'll do that is RPM. And so we're moving around. We're grooving. We're a minute in. The battery is at 3.86 at 0 throttle. It's about normal. About what you would expect, like a minute and change in. I'm trying to get this. You see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a nice throw going into that little corner dive. I don't know what it is here in Atlanta. A lot of our buildings have this kind of like right angle thing going on in the corner. It's really nice. That was, I remember that. I remember this moment of like I'm going directly at this tree. Oh my God, I have to bail. That is something that a 5-inch rig won't do. It will not let you bail that quickly. That is something unique to these really lightweight rigs, which is cool. They don't have that moment of like slowing down and sort of changing directions like the bigger quads tend to. All right, we are at 1:50. Battery's starting to give us flashes when we go full throttle. To be expected. 3.67 at a cruise. Battery's still hanging in. This is a BT 3.0 battery from tinywhoop.com. I don't know who makes it, but they feel great. The Tattoo batteries that I fly on the other rig also feel great, as does the GNB. Cool. 2 minutes and 20 coming up here. Battery is sagging down. 3.33 I just saw at full throttle. But again, in this last minute of running a battery down, you shouldn't be hammering it. You can do like a quick little full throttle blip, but don't sit this thing at full throttle for like a full second. You'll hurt the battery. 3.58 at a cruise. So we still got some juice left. Tried to do kind of the same thing as I did on the previous battery. Elevation up and back down. Coming up on 3 minutes of runtime. So smaller motors, lighter quad, more power, but still plenty of runtime. And that is one of the main reasons that we run smaller motors with higher KV on micros, because that is one of the best ways, if you don't absolutely hammer the balls out of it the entire time, to get more runtime and more performance. You just have to not fly it absolutely like you hate it the entire time. And if you do, you just need to go to a lower KV motor, right? Like going to a relatively higher KV motor like this, you got to fly a little bit differently. So it's not for everybody. Maximum ESC RPM 34,804. I don't think, call it 35,000. I don't think I disarmed anywhere in here, right? Yeah, okay. So 35,000 RPM. This is one of the other really nice things to check. On the 1202 and a half 10,000s. On the 12, whoa, big difference. So part of this difference is coming from the propellers. This build here was on much pitchier propellers. But also this is the difference between 7,000 kV and 10,000 kV. We went from 35,000 RPM down here to call it 30, right? Close enough to 30,000. Then I went to another spot and flew 2 more batteries. This is now the GNB 2S 450 mAh battery. And I should have a full throttle hit coming here. Why is the OSD not on? Why? I guess the switch got flipped when I put it into the car. Tell me I didn't fly this whole battery with the OSD off. Oh, you giant idiot. Okay, well, I realized that eventually. That sucks. The battery is already now sagged down enough where we can't compare that we can't compare that first full throttle hit. So we can't have that comparison here, but we can compare the RPM at the end, well, whenever I disarm this. And so... Oh, shit. The other thing I wanted to look at was the runtime. Sorry. 3 minutes and 22 seconds. So very similar runtimes. We're just going to skip to the end. And what do we got? So this is the Flywoo. Very similar RPM. 29,654. Call it 30,000 RPM. 3 minutes and 13 seconds. And then the smaller but higher KV motors. Let's just skip to the end. I'm curious. 33,208. 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Look at that. This is one of these batteries might be hurting a little bit because it's at 3.53 at a hover. Or I could have just been flying it harder. I would need to fly at least 2 more, better yet, 4 more batteries at the spot to really be able to tell. Oh, wait, no, the battery just didn't charge all the way. What the hell? The battery's sitting at 3.9 volts per cell as I'm taking off. What's that about? Okay, so that absolutely explains it. But those first 2 batteries that we ran, they were both fully charged. So this was kind of a waste. This battery is already discharged quite a bit. We did see it just flashing there. I flew this again out in front of the house, though, and got a couple of clean runs. So 4.27, fully charged. Let's see what happens here. This is the Flywoo rig. And so we've been at 100% throttle. I almost had that last second at 100%. There we go. So 100% throttle, 3.61 is the lowest that it's looking like it sagged, which is awesome. Nope, 3.58. So that's pretty good, man. This was a big full throttle hit. Ready? And 1,000, 2, 1. Wow, that's more than a full second of full throttle, which is a big full throttle hit. You can see how in the atmosphere this thing got in that amount of time. So yeah, that's a pretty big hit. So 1203, 7,000 kV, a really decent choice here, especially if you want a lot of consistency. If you can sacrifice a little bit of power for like consistency and runtime and just having something that feels very similar from the beginning of the battery to the end of the battery, this is a great motor. That's something that we don't talk enough about. When you have a really hot motor that makes a lot of power, at the beginning of the battery, it's going to feel way different than at the end. Because at the end of the battery, if you go full throttle, you're going to pull that thing down below 3 volts per cell and just smoke that battery. So picking a battery with less power, look at that. Look at how long am I full throttle? 1,000. Okay, I ramped up the throttle pretty slow. That is a huge throw, though. This is like covering probably 100 feet of lateral space. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed by these T-Motor 1203 7000s. I do think I want a little bit more power than this, which is where we're going with some of these next motors, but this is a really good choice. I'm really surprised at how good this 1203 7000 is doing on 2S. Hey, also, this is with the less pitchy propellers. This is with the props that are on it right now, which are... Hold on. Which are... I think they're the GemFan 2520s. Yep, GemFan 2520s. So both of these rigs are actually on these GemFan 2520s right now. And so we'll probably get a little bit more runtime here. I'll be interested to see. But man, it's getting a little bit more than 3 minutes of runtime. It's sagging the battery, but it's not sagging it super hard. It feels great. Like, yeah, like I said, I do want a little bit more, but this is damn good, and you should always fly rigs that are a little bit underpowered rather than overpowered. An underpowered rig is easier to fly, and you will literally fly better because you have more throttle resolution. An overpowered rig ruins batteries. You don't fly it as good. Your flight footage doesn't look as good. It might be a little bit more fun, but that fun wears off after the 20th time you've gone full throttle. So yeah, fly stuff that's a little bit underpowered versus overpowered, and you'll have a much better time. I wish I could line... I wish that little gap for that move wasn't quite as small, because I always have to pause to line it up. It's hard to line that up. Again, this is the Flywoo wide. Did anybody even notice the difference in field of view between those first 4 flight files that I played for you once I was up in the air moving around? Don't lie. You didn't. The 04 light is fine. There you go. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. The runtime depends so heavily on what you're doing. Here, this is 23. That's really low. 33. There we go. I had to disarm it. So now our RPM has gone up significantly. Is that the first time I disarmed it? That maximum RPM gets wiped out every time you disarm. So you got to catch it the first time that you disarm. And so I didn't disarm on that move. Look at me. So this is interesting. This really shows the difference between these propellers. 33,000 RPM, right? 33,000 versus 29,758. I told you, even though the difference in pitch between these propellers and the GemFan 3520s, I told you that these propellers fly like they're a higher pitch. It's the blade. The blade being bigger and wider is going to be more grippy, and it's going to make more power, and it's going to drag the motors down. 3,000 extra RPM by going from a 2.1 pitch motor to a 2.0 pitch motor. Like, yes, sure. This is a 2.1 pitch motor from HQ, and then these are 2.0 pitch motors from GemFan, and just like with KV, between one brand and the next, they're going to measure shit differently. But you can see it. You can look at this propeller, and you can look at how beefy the blade is and tell that's going to make more power at lower RPMs. That's a more pitchy prop. That's a prop that is going to scoop more air in it, for every revolution. And it's really cool to kind of see it there, see that play out. So there you go. Feels totally fine on the 2520s though. Like, I didn't really notice that it had any less power. Those bigger, thicker props, they're a little too big. A little too big for these small motors. Anything else in here? I hadn't adjusted the amp reading yet. 3 minutes and 13 seconds boogieing around the neighborhood. Bando Turtle, what you got? What you got for us? Why is this flight file only 2 minutes long? It's... Oh no. Why did it stop recording? Hopefully I started the recording again. Oh shit, I forgot to look at the battery sag. Oh no, I guess we did. 3 point, but I forget what number. 3.58? Yeah, 3.58. So 358 on the 1203 7000s. Woo, buddy. Whoa, no. 3.14. Oh no. 3.06. Jesus Christ. Yeah, okay, that's pushing it. That's pushing it. That's tough. That's tough right there. Yeah, so too high of a KV. Too high of a KV for these specific propellers. I'm going to move this. I'm actually going to take these. I'm going to take these props off right now. And I'm going to put on some 2512 GemFan 2512 propellers. These are going to be a better match for a motor that's this high of a KV, because on a freshly charged battery, if you go full throttle and it drops that battery down to 3.06, that is a mismatch, right? Again, when I say mismatch, we have to balance the stator size of the motor, the KV of the motor, the battery size and voltage, with the propellers, the pitch of the propeller and the size of the propeller. We got all these things meeting in the middle, and if one of them is wrong, it throws everything off. And this right now is wrong. This is too pitchy of a propeller for this high of a KV of motor. So I could either go to a lower KV motor, go to a bigger stator motor. If I go to a bigger stator motor that's the same KV, it's going to hammer the shit out of the battery. So now I got to go bigger on the battery, right? The relationship between these things is really, really, really important. On this rig, I could go to a bigger battery because the top tray is much longer. And so, for example, the batteries that I do run on this are these 2S Tiny Whoop 450s, because these are the biggest batteries that I have with BT 3.0 plugs on them. But as you can see, this battery easily fits on here. I could easily run a longer battery that hung off the front more, but I don't have any of them with BT 3.0 plugs. So I need to do a little bit of shuffling with this is not the right frame for this electronics package, which is totally fine because this electronics package is going back onto a 2-inch frame. It's actually going to go onto the Bando Turtle 2-inch frame. I moved this electronics package over to this frame just so that I had two 04 light rigs to do all of this testing. Two very similar rigs at similar all-up weights and all that. So yeah, this BT 3.0 is not a great option for this because we're limited on batteries. But on a 2-inch build, BT 3.0 is great because there are 300 mAh 2S batteries and there are 450 mAh 2S batteries, and that's all you need. And so yeah, BT 3.0 is a better fit for 2-inch than 2.5. 2.5-inch, you're gonna probably need bigger batteries, and they're gonna be XT30. So, yeah, man, 3.06, that's brutal. Jesus. Here's one of the I will say this. Here's one of the scenarios that this thing is awesome. Removing these propellers. I don't have to worry about it over torquing, and it just makes this so simple. And just quick and easy and thoughtless and brainless, and you don't do anything, you don't get carpal tunnel going on. But putting these new propellers on, I'm not going to use this thing. And so, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I am trying to justify keeping this thing. It's really nice to have, but, like, I tend to not keep stuff around that's just, like, really nice to have. I try to keep as little shit as possible and use that stuff for as many different jobs as I possibly can. Like, yes, there's the right tool for every job, but, like, sometimes it's sort of overkill. And this kind of maybe sort of feels like overkill. Boy, is this light nice, though. Good God, is that nice. All right, let's let the rest of this flight footage play out. We'll see what kind of runtime we get. We'll see what kind of RPM we have at the end. That was a great full throttle blast to let the motors really unwind. So the RPM that we get at the end will be really nice. Again, this is now on an 04 light. Did you notice? Did you notice the drastically less field of view? I don't. I don't notice it when I'm flying it. I notice it when it's sitting on the workbench. I notice it at like random times, but like when I'm flying, it's fine. I just fly. Oh, hold on. We got the RPM. Where's it at? Where did I disarm? 35,342. So very similar. I didn't change props on this one. And so, oh, that's actually really, really interesting. How the hell, with the same propellers, these two rigs had the same props on them. How on earth is this one, which is 10,000 kV, only turning 2,000 extra RPM than this guy on 7,000 RPM? It's because these motors are too small for this high of a kV. This kV is too high. This kV is a little bit too low. And so the current setup, this size motor, the 3520 props, right? The battery, there's a mismatch. This is a little bit mismatched. I'm going to fix that mismatch with propellers. This is the cheapest way to fix when you have that mismatch, right? You don't have to swap motors. You don't have to swap batteries, connectors, any of that shit. And so these much less pitchy propellers are going to allow these motors to really like unload and just crank. And we'll probably see that 35,000 RPM jump to damn near 40. because 10,000 kV is a lot of kV, especially compared to 7,000 kV. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I know it does. You guys are smart. You guys are smart. Bunch of smart people hang out in this chat. I would love to try bigger motors on this rig, but it's on motor plugs, and there are none. 1202.5 is the biggest motor that I've found, I believe, with motor plugs. And so, yeah. But that's okay. Again, this electronics package with the plugs belongs in a 2-inch frame. Headphone users, please let me know if it is too annoying and or distracting for me to be using this electric driver during these live streams. I don't have to use this. I'm specifically doing it right now to see if it drives you guys insane. Monday's live stream, headphone folks seem to be cool with it. So yeah, handy little thing. Also, like when the T-mount screw, when the M2 screws get stuck in the propeller, and then Teddy, relax, man. Can you just exist in a place that doesn't involve harassing me for another hour, another half an hour? Oh my god, it's 11:30. What the shit? Okay, let me stop doing this, and we'll blitz through the rest of this flight footage here. That's me in the grass. It's me still in the grass. Why did it break up these flight files? That's weird. Very weird. Tell me I got one more flight out of it. Nope. It stopped recording. Nope, there it is. Okay, so here's the end of that battery. Oh, it got too hot. I think the 04 light got too hot. And that's why it chopped. It was just struggling. Yeah. So now I'm flying a little bit harder. I don't think I unplugged it, so the total time should still be accurate. This is me jamming pretty good though. I'm flying this harder than I was flying the Caillou Mini. Oh, this is gonna hurt the battery. Oh, 3.23. That's rough. It didn't throw quite as far there. That's probably me not flying it right. I tried to make up for it with this. It's my favorite new hole in the trees. And so, yeah. Left, right. Okay, Gemfan 2512 should be a really good match here. Hey. Oh, I didn't need to pull these screws. These screws are too long. Shit. Put these right back in these propellers. That hurt. I forgot that the driveway comes up over crest. I had my altitude locked in and I wasn't changing it, and I just biffed it. I couldn't find a mark though. It hit hard, man. I heard that through the front door. I was inside the front door doing these flights because the mosquitoes are just horrendous right now. That was sketchy. I don't usually let it get quite that close to the roof, but I was just kind of moving and grooving here. 2 minutes and 48, 249, 250. Battery is pretty shot by this point. I think this is the last little run that I kind of do here. This is a fun thing to do at the end of the battery because you're just like at cruising. You know, I'm at 32% throttle. You're not hurting the battery all that much, and it looks really, really cool. And this should be end here. So 3 minutes and 13 with the smaller motors on the same same props. And so, yeah, the heavier rig is getting almost the same runtime because the heavier build is better. It's a better match. The prop to motor to KV to battery is better dialed in. And so even though this is significantly heavier, right? The camera system is heavier, the frame is heavier, the motors are heavier. We're getting pretty much the same runtime between the two of these. Speaking of, in terms of dry weight, The Caillou is 77 grams. The Bando Turtle is 60. 17 grams difference between these two. And yet, we're getting better runtime here. Lower KV motors, but more important than that, better matched motors to props, to battery, to all-up weight combination. This, on these lower pitch props, I'll bet you this gets 4 minutes of runtime. This will come alive on these lower pitch propellers. I can all but guarantee it. I'll do that testing tomorrow, and we'll see. But super important, man. Super, super, super important to get that crossroads of those things dialed in. And that's what makes a good rig a great rig. You know, like if you get 3 of those 4 things dialed in, it'll fly good. You get that 4th thing dialed in, it'll fly phenomenal. And so do it. Here's a weird little trick. Sometimes some propellers have different thickness hubs than other propellers. These 2512s are a great example of that. When I put this, I think this is an M2x7, into this propeller, this is the Gemfan 2520, we've got just the right amount of threads hanging out. If I put this same screw into a less pitchy propeller, a 2512, we've got too much screw hanging out. That can potentially drive down through the motor bell and hit the stator. So pay attention to that. Always put one screw in and look at how much is hanging out. This is too much. I took these screws out of these propellers thinking I would use them for these 2512s, but I can't. I got to go to a shorter screw. I got to go to probably an M2x6. Typically with propellers, you're going to be running M2x6 or M2x7 or M2x8. You're almost never going to need to go outside of that. You're almost never going to need to do M2x8. It's almost always 6 or 7. These are 7s. These need 6s. And I'm not going to do that right now because I'll have to dig around for them. I need to get caught up on chat and fly a couple of batteries because I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover about the 1203s and 1202.5s. These live streams will never be, and this is certainly not a you should buy 1203s or you should buy 1202.5s. The whole point of long form content is to actually learn how these things work so that you can dial this shit in yourself, because that's the only way. Every single one of us is a different pilot, so we all want different amounts of power, different runtime, different flight characteristics, and that's okay. And so just blanket asking what's the best motor, what should I buy, that is worthless. You have to figure that out yourself. You can certainly book a Fiverr call with me for a half an hour, an hour, where I can actually be one-on-one with you and ask you a ton of questions to get dialed in on that. But we custom build so that we can have something that's custom built for each one of us. And so you got to remember that, and you got to really kind of like respect that almost, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. Let me see how quickly I can get caught up on chat. Ryan Sadat, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, not sure anyone has said this recently, but we love you, man. Thanks for being part of this community and giving us a place to hang out 4 times a week. I appreciate it, dude. People say it more than you'd think. The community of people that have found their way here and have stayed, go figure, are people that are pretty nice and pretty appreciative and pretty awake, to be honest. And you know, that's those are people that show their appreciation and actually understand how important it is to like tell people that are doing hard, cool shit that it's appreciated and that it's great that they're doing difficult, cool stuff. So yeah, you guys are all very, very, very kind, and I appreciate it a lot. CXB says, I have a set of Happy Model 1203 11,000s that need a frame. Would you recommend 2.5 on 2S for them? Nope. 11,000 kV is too much. You could certainly just motor limit it down. Okay, but if you don't want to motor limit those down, 11,000 kV is a bit much. We're gonna really dial in on that when I swap the motors out on this Caillou Mini, but I can already tell you from what we saw tonight that 10,000 kV, even though it's a smaller motor, right? A 1203 is going to do a better job than a 1202.5, and it also depends on how big of a battery you put on the frame, right? So this is why that's a question with no answer, right? Because the crossroads, bro. But that high of a kV is going to be a better bet for a 2-inch prop, unless you run a really low pitch 2.5-inch propeller, which we're going to see on Friday because these are going on, and we'll see how 10,000 kV does with them. Or you put a big ass battery on there. If you want to run like a 2520 prop, like one of the normal pitch 2.5-inch props, you would need to do like a 2S 650 or even like 850 for that battery to have a big enough gas tank to not have it sag all the time. So B Kirk says, what is the STL? I can do that. I would have to look it up. But B Kirk, if you're interested in doing it, can you do me a massive favor and shoot me a message on Discord, and I'll find the STL and shoot it over to you. Thank you. Actually, hold on. I think I've figured out how to use the one search part. Yeah! I've always had a really hard time figuring out how to search in Discord, and I'm starting to kind of figure it out. I sent you a message. Can you do me a favor and just reply back to that message so that you're in my unread? CiottiFPV says, I could teach you how to edit the STL. You know, I would love to learn 3D design, but holy shit, I'm so fucking busy, and I just know that is going to be a 50-hour rabbit hole that I get trapped in. And so I know how I am, and sometimes I have to just not do stuff that I really want to do because, it'll just... But there will be a point where I have some space, and I would love to learn some 3D CAD stuff. WKFPV says, I redesigned mine, but also make other modifications because I adapted it to another frame. I wish I know what that's in reference to at 10:22 p.m. Striker says, no way, perfect timing for this, considering I literally just bought parts for the Bando Turtle 2.5 analog, and I got RC Power 1202.5 11,500s. Awesome. Sporny says, just flip the mat. This mat can't be flipped. It's got like stuff on the top, and the bottom has like magnets and shit. It's just not a mat you can flip. J8R2T says, have you tried 1204 on 3S? Not yet. We're getting there. Actually, no, I have tried 1204 on 3S probably like 6 or 7 years ago in Toothpick World on 3-inch props. They were 3-inch bi-blades, so it is kind of comparable, but 6 years is a long time. Just got 1204 8000 3S 2.5-inch prop that is extremely fast, and 1204 6500 3S 3-inch that's more efficient and almost as fun. Looking at the DVR tonight, these RC and Power 1204 8000s on 3S is going to be a bit much, I have a feeling. I can just motor limit them down, or I can run these low pitch props, which are actually really good. But yeah, 8000 kV on 3S is going to be pretty maniacal. So we'll see. 6500 kV is a much better bet. Blueback says 2-inch setup with 4-hole equals max frames M2. It does indeed. Douglas 6 says, what is the movie? Chicks Dig Garbage. That is a quote that one of the rats says in Dr. Dolittle. The rats are trying to tell Eddie Murphy how to impress a girl, and one of the rats says, give her garbage. Chicks dig garbage. Nyafu says, undoing fisheye with gyroflow is unimaginably easy. That's true, but in order to do that, you then lose that extra field of view. And so on one side of the argument, That's fine because I got to fly with the full field of view, sure. But the problem is you're cropping in on a sensor that's already kind of too small. And so you end up losing quality. So, yeah. No free lunches. Sporty says, I have some Happy Model 1102 13500s, a Tune RC Poly, and an 04 light wide. What should I do with it? The Poly needs an external receiver, though. Do a build with it. I can't dive into... That's like a 15-minute conversation. Ask me when it's not 11:44. I mean, you did, but ask me again on Friday's stream, and hopefully I can dive into that a little bit earlier. Uriel says, camera looks great. Time Rides EUC says, do you think 4S lithium-ion pack would fit on your frame? If you're motivated enough, anything will fit. But that is going to be... Those 18650 cells are really big. And so that is a battery that if you crash, it's going to rip the entire top plate like off or something like that. So like, will it fit? Sure. But it's going to look insane. It's going to have a really high center of gravity and it's not going to be crashable at all. But sure, it'll fit because the top plate is, well, actually it might not fit. Hold on. So this is a 6S 18650, but the 18650's cells are all the same kind of length. And so in order for it to fit, you're not going to be able to run the socket-headed screws on the top. You're going to have to run button-head screws. But with button-head screws, yeah, it'll go on there. It's just long enough front to rear. So, kinda. The answer is kinda. Teddy, no, it's a battery. Don't eat that. Fucking lunatic, this dog. Jesus Christ. Sporty says, I have my XT30 hard mounted to the back, so the 2S 580s fit just fine. Took all the sag for me. Nice. I'm gonna get ready to fly. Because I did put 6 batteries in the stream title. And I did charge them. Ryan Sedat says, good evening, beautiful people. Trekker says, where can I take lipos to dispose of them? Best Buy. It's been almost 3 years. I have probably 100 dead batteries. No idea where to toss. Yep, Best Buy has battery recycling bins. There's probably a lot of places. Google it. Ryan Sedat says, did you fly the GemFan flash props on any of these flights? What GemFan flash props? They have a lot of different flash props. Caillou, many people seem to love them, and I can't imagine how they fly well on the 1103 they recommend. Stricker says, I feel like the power to weight isn't as important as response time. They're the same thing, though. Flying a rig with barely enough power feels perfect. There's that goddamn acronym again that just doesn't make any sense. Stop using that acronym. But a more responsive motor literally equals fly more better. A motor with good power to weight ratio is also going to have good response time. A motor with bad power to weight ratio is going to have bad response time. There are fringe cases, like a motor that has bad power because it's too low of a KV, but hopefully you have all that sorted. Hopefully you have a sensibly sized motor and a sensibly KV'd motor. And so, like, if nothing is wrong, then more power, better response time. So, yeah. Striker also says, my favorite thing to talk about in FPV, the relationship between stator volume, diameter, motor, KV pitch. I've been obsessed with it. Yeah, it's very fun. This is the engineering side of FPV. Ryan says, I hate to be that guy, but do you think the type of build you're after may be better suited for to a frame like one of the Quad Mula 2.5 inch on 3 to 4S 550 on big ass motors? Not really, because like once you go that route, you gain 100 grams, and now you're into destroying cars territory. Not destroying cars, but like going through the windshield of a car territory rather than just maybe leaving a chip in it. Way more noise, way less friendly to neighbors, right? Like, God forbid you hit somebody, it's a whole different conversation. So, yeah, I love the way that those heavier rigs fly, don't get me wrong, but for like consistently flying every single day out in front of your house, those are loud enough where people might talk shit, and that the whole situation sucks. And so, like, the beauty of these is that they're a kid's toy, right? This is just a silly little kid's toy. People smile and laugh at it. It's a whole different kind of thing than those bigger kind of setups. So yeah, different tools. Ryan also says, I feel like one of those would probably also have sufficient soft mounting for gyro flow in the 04 wide with the bigger adapter that adapts to the 04 Pro mounting. That'd be nice. You ever consider using those tiny whoop motor wires / plugs and just solder them onto the PCB of one of those motors without plugs? Yes, the loss. Wait, what? Oh no, we're on to motors that don't have PCBs, right? Only the tiny whoop motors have those really nice little PCBs. None of these other motors have a PCB like that. So you're dealing with just straight wires coming off the motor. So unfortunately, it doesn't work. Sear says different smokes for different folks. Indeed. Ryan says, I've caught the toothpick bug, can't decide HD analog 2S1S crux frame or another. What was your favorite toothpick build if you built one in the last year or two? I haven't done a toothpick build since the pandemic, and I there's not a single one that I've done that I liked. I don't like setups that have zero throw. It's very frustrating to me. That's just me though. I love being off throttle, and that's the one thing that toothpicks do the worst. Render says, just saying hi, long time no see. Hope you've been well. Just got back from WCTD. And it was sick to meet so many pilots. WCTD. World Class Turd Demolition? That's a pretty specific event you went to. It's cool that there were pilots there. I don't know what WCTD is. Stop using acronyms, people. Not everybody knows what they are, and they either feel dumb or they just don't know what you're talking about and they just move on. Daytona Jim with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you again for the $5 holler. Ryan says, I heard that Schnauzer's got a throttle and a toothy smile. They do indeed. I was asking in a previous comment about specifically the GemFan Flash. Here we go. GemFan Flash 2540. Those super high pitched ones. You ever try them on the Caillou or Bando 2.5? No, they're just way too high pitched. If these 2.0 pitch props are too high pitched, the 2540s are just like absurd. Those 2540s need like a 1404 to really crank them, or like a 1304. Striker says we need to make all motors have PCB. Yeah, for real. Render says, here it is, West Coast Throwdown. Got it. Thank you, dude. I didn't mean to get all the way through the chat comments. I was going to try to talk through them while I fly, but I guess now I can just enjoy flying and probably fly a little bit better because I can think about what I'm doing instead of thinking about answering questions. This is the ultimate freestyle tiny whoop on 36,000 kV tiny whoop 0702s. Cockroach 65 V3 frame. Old school Mobula 6 canopy for the durability. Runcam Nano 3 for the lightweight. One of my custom length ORT micro V antennas that fit absolutely perfect in these setups. And HQ 1.2 by 0.9 by 3 propellers. Let's do it! Oh. Hold on. Now let's do it. Ryan Sadat's RC and Power 12 and 2.5s look like they have a PCB, but I could be wrong. A lot of the T-mount motors, even the bigger ones, do have PCBs, but you're right. Unfortunately, many of them don't. I haven't seen any of them have PCBs. I haven't been looking for the PCBs, but I haven't noticed them on anything other than 702s and 802s. Whoa, okay. Ah! Go to hell! You first, it says. No. Let me live. No, don't do that. Let me live. Oh, Teddy, help me. Teddy, help me, I'm stuck. Teddy, Timmy's stuck in the well, help him. farts. Hey-oh! Immediate fail. Hey, stop it! Stop it! Hey, stop it! Stop it! Hey, stop that! How does he know what the front is? How does he always know? Look at this guy. Look at this bad haircut on this dog. Oh, shit! Whoa! He snuck around behind us. Whoa! He's trying to get it stuck in his beard tonight. He has learned. He has learned that when I launch it like that, I'll launch it away, so he has to come and get it. Hey! Boy, I love having this cube down here. This cube and this hanging gate setup is my absolute favorite. Oh! I did not need to disarm that. Oh no! Come on. Ah! Go to hell. Let's try that again. One more time. Damn it. I'm doing it too shallow. Let's do it right. Move into it with more momentum. Nope. Move into it with more momentum. Well, when you do that, it gets harder to kill that forward momentum and get yourself moving back. So you got to be right in between, which that almost was. Ah! This Weebly cube is in a different spot than it's ever been, and I need to get used to that. Damn it! I am not getting this Mega Matty loop down. Matty flip down, rather. Hey, relax. Don't die. Oh, what was that? I didn't get, like, any pitch forward. Oh. Oh, hi. What's up, small dog? There it is. Whoa! Okay. Alright, let me try to get this dive down. First shot. Dong. Oh, no! I couldn't back it up. Oh, Teddy boy. That was a 280 mAh battery from Beta FPV, the Lava V2. I really, really, really like these. Good enough runtime. Over a gram lighter than any of these other batteries. Real good. Here comes a Weebly 340. Here we go. Come on. Oh, yeah. It looks cooler with this cube right next to the IKEA 3x3. Ugh. Yeah, buddy. Oh! Nope. Hey. No! I would really prefer, and I did have this for a while, I would really prefer to have this gate out here. You can actually see, this is where I used to have that gate on these little guys. The problem is, when this gate is out here, it's a pain in the ass to walk around. Every time you come down and walk into the basement, which is like the, you know, the home theater, family room, whatever, you got to walk here like this, and so you got to duck. And so I've been moving this over towards the wall more and more until it's like not a pain in the ass for everybody that comes down here. And so yeah, one of the things that makes that a little more difficult. No, I ain't gonna make it. No. No, wow, why can't I fucking power loop through the damn thing? There we go. No! I'm inside the blinds. It ain't coming out. There's absolutely no way that's coming out. Shame. There you go, dog. Your favorite. Okay, small animal. Oh, he's trembling with excitement. This right here will never get old. Here we go. Here we go. He knows it's coming. Oh! I hope you guys heard that snarl. That was a good snarl. That was like top 10 snarls of all time. From any dog ever, anywhere. Oh no. Please don't. Yeah. Teddy! Teddy, relax! You're gonna get it caught in your beard! You're not gonna like it when you catch it. Oh! He is fucking fired up tonight. Holy shit. He hasn't been this insane in a while. Oh! No. Oh! I can't believe I caught that. Oh, the new... I always forget about the newbies. Renegade! Oh! Hi-hat hits. Oh! Oh! Hey, oh! It's a face-off. Robots versus dogs. Oh god, why? Hey. Oh, so close. Right at the end of the battery, too. Oof. Oof, I say. All right, one more. Fly your 6 batteries today, friends. It's 12:01. Happy fucking Thursday. Fly 6 batteries, or else I'll beat you with a stick. Your choice. Don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. But if you make me, I'll have to slap you. Here's another 280. Ultra lightweight ding dong. Thanks for hanging, friends. CiottiFPV.com to support me. Patreon is the absolute best way that you can do that, but there's lots of other ways. Buy yourself some stuff from my Etsy store. Book some one-on-one time with me if you want to really learn a lot fast. Click thumbs up, leave a comment, all that stuff. Everything helps. Oh no! Oh no! Don't fall behind. Oh, thank God. Let's fly a chill battery. Let's just pretend like I'm being paid to fly a cinematic fly-through. No, that's not how to do it. Oh my God. Oh no! Fuck you. No shot. Fucking nose. Nose peeking through there is great. Oh, Teddy. You fucker. You little devil. Oh, God. be a day that, like, I walk back here to the computer, and it's just gonna be the inside of his stomach. I'm gonna put the goggles on, and I'm just gonna see blackness, because he will have actually eaten it. Oh shit, he's crazed. Well, this is good. The gate blocks his dangle. Oh shit, something just happened. Uh-oh, quad's broken. Hold on, let's fire each motor up in turtle mode. Well, that one's good. That one's not. Left rear motor is... Oh, nope, there it went. We didn't get a good launch there with a Teddy reaction, but that's okay. Oh, whoa! Oh my god. Stop it, let me go. Let me fly. I'm all tangled up in something. Okay. Screw flying soft. Let's fly like our hair's on oh, I don't know what I just hit, but it sounded expensive. Oh god. Oh Jesus. It's gonna kill me. Everything's fine. Oh, Teddy. Oh boy. Mirror flip. You gotta sneak up on it. Sneak up. Sneak up. Hello. Oh god. Oh no. Okay. Try it again. You gotta sneak up on it. Sneak up. Sneak it up. Got it. A bunch of video noise right now. I wonder what's going on. Oh! Oh! Oh, no! One of these days, I will link up every single one of those really difficult moves and actually hit all of them in sequence. But today ain't that day. But damn, I got close, yo. And those were clean. It's that mega power loop. Oh, shit. That hit quite hard. No, no. Not quite. Ooh, shit. There it is. Get you some, friends. This is why you fly 6 batteries a day. Because at some point, you'll be able to do this. And when you're able to do this shit, you'll have so much fun sitting inside in the air conditioning while it's raining or too goddamn hot out or too goddamn cold out. And then your life will be exponentially better. Because being able to rip this hard inside is the greatest thing on earth. But fair warning, you'll never fly outside again. Not never. But less. Yeah. Denzel the Terrible says, what might cause that horizontal banding? One of mine started doing that recently. So when it comes to tiny whoops, you've got one board with the VTX on it and the antenna. And so it's either the AIO or it's the antenna, especially if it ever didn't do it, right? Like if it's always done that, then yeah, don't buy that AIO again. But like if it starts doing it, you swap the antenna. If that doesn't help, it's the AIO, and there's just nothing you can do. You just run the AIO into the ground. I mean, you can try like changing video channels, but nothing's gonna work. You just fly it till the wheels fall off. The VTXs and these tiny whoop AIOs are a structural member, and so when you hit them enough times, the traces flex and flex and flex and flex, and the traces start to break, and you lose that connectivity, and electric noise creeps in. But yeah, the long and short of it is like there's no switch you can flip in Betaflight that says like I don't want any more video noise, right? And so it's a hardware problem. If there was ever a point that it wasn't like that, right? If it's always like that, yeah. Where was that in chat? Drone Daddy says, hey man, have you tried the Beta FPV Lava 2 batteries for 2S Very, very little battery sag. Great batteries. I haven't because they don't make any in 450, I don't think. I have the 560, the 580s, but they don't fit in the Caillou Mini. They will fit on the Bando Turtle, but the Bando Turtle is BT 3.0. And so this frame is going to get an XT30 AIO, so I will be able to try them on this frame, but not quite yet. Ryan says, something that blew my mind is I was reading the Molex Pico Blade spec, the plugs we use for tiny whoop motors, and apparently only rated for 3 amps continuous. What blows me away about them more is how is the plug and unplug spec. They're considered worn out once you've like plugged and unplugged them like something like 10 times or something like that. They're terrible plugs, but they do an amazing job for what we use them for. And it's only like a 4 to 5% difference between these plugs and direct soldering the motors, and that is nowhere near enough to justify the pain in the ass of dealing with direct soldered motors on whoops. Nathan Wales says, all the times you don't see Teddy, he's looking at the back end of the rig. That's true. Ryan says, my bad, the Molex Pico Blade is rated for 1 amp continuous and 2 amp burst. Just double check. It's a miracle they don't catch on fire. Bigger builds. Sporny says, you could make the gate fold up when not in use. Which gate? Which gate? The one up there? It's a pain in the ass. For a long time I tore these gates all down, put them all back up, tore them down, put them back up. But like I'm streaming 4 times a week, right? And so yeah, just leaving them up in places that are not a nightmare is a much better bet for me. Jimmy the Cow says, oh hell, Teddy Spaghetti. Indeed. Ryan says, you're lucky Teddy just snarls and jumps with the whoops. My dog absolutely mangles them if they can get close. And she's even smaller than Teddy. She ripped the lens off of a CO3 last week. Yeah, a lot of dogs are pretty destructive to tiny whoops. I'm lucky that Teddy's cool. Ryan says, that gave me an excuse to put one of those silly wide-angle lenses on it. Nice. Danzilla says, oh no, we got that. And Jackalope with a $23 super chat. Thank you so much, brother. What a cool way to end the live stream. 04 Light Fund. Thank you, dude. Very, very cool. We're going to get one of these DJI wide 04 lights once they're available in the US. So 7, 8, 9, and then 7 plus 3, a cool 100. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much. And nope. Oh no, remove. There we go. Look at that. Thank you, brother. Thank you all for hanging. CiottiFPV.com to support me. Click some buttons, do some things, and we'll keep hanging out and building good shit and not wasting our money on bad shit. There is going to be a live stream coming up, maybe next Whoop Wednesday, a health check on this thing. This thing got beat up pretty good over the last like year, and it needs a little bit of loving. And so we'll kind of dive into how to health check and maintenance and stuff, how to tell when it's, you know, too banged up, shit like that. So be good, people. I'll check you out on Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Here comes some raw flight footage from the Bando Turtle. The beginning of the live stream, you got the onboard footage from the Caillou Mini with the Flywoo wide. Now you're getting the raw flight footage from the 04 Light on the Bando Turtle. Enjoy. I'll see you on Friday. Come on. Come on. Later.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy Spaghetti's fur flies and jet wash dreams, yeah.
Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, heart in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin all tangled in place. Yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail. In the circus of the sky, they never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy Spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, they zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah. Shotties on sticks, Teddy's on paws. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz, fuel, fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah. Shotty behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive, Teddy. Push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc, got the sticks locked in, Teddy. Yeah, let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind, Teddy. Yep. CiottiFPV, Teddy Spaghetti, diamond and duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Teddy Spaghetti, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, when you hear that bar cut the rotor hum, you know Ciotti and Teddy's mission's just begun. FPV's fur-faced legends sing it loud. Yeah, Teddy Spaghetti and CiottiFPV,